fun now, guys. So how do we solve a trig problem? Now, this is probably, these are probably the most important things you can do. First thing with any triangle problem, and I think we've been through this many, many times. First step, label. Label the sides of my triangle. Figure out which ratio you want to use, and you look at the sides of your triangle to figure out which ratio you want to use. If your triangle only gives you the adjacent and the hypotenuse, then you're going to use cosine. If it doesn't give you a hypotenuse, chances are pretty good you're going to use tangent. So you're going to have to figure that one out. So that is the trickiest part of the whole question. If you can label this properly, you should be pretty good with this one. So you're going to write out your equation, and then you're going to plug in whatever you are given, every information that you know, and then you're going to solve by our absolute favorite, cross multiplying. I know it might not look like cross multiplying, but that's what but it will. Trust me, I'll show it to you, okay? So solve for the unknown. Triangles are not drawn to scale, obviously. So solving for our unknown. So again, this is our angle in question here. This, as always, is our hypotenuse. It is across from the box. So if we are looking, the x value is our opposite. Adjacent would be right here. It doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't give us any information, doesn't ask us any information. So I'm just going to leave it blank, because that way I am given my opposite, my hypotenuse. It tells me really quickly which trig ratio I need to use. So, and if you didn't already guess, it was sine. So sine of 60 equals my opposite over my hypotenuse. So now that I have this, any number, and sine 60 is a number, you just typed it in your calculator and you figured out what it is. Any number can be written over 1. So now, guys, our favorite thing, we have numbers, fractions on both sides and an equal sign in the middle. We're going to cross multiply. So what we're going to say is 1 times x equals x. X equals 17 times sine 60. So now in my calculator, what I'm going to do, make sure I'm in degree mode. And I am going to first type in my sine 60. I always like to do that first. I get this funny decimal times 17. Okay, and there's my answer. X equals 14.72. Okay, there's no units, so I don't need to include units, but that is the length of that side. Okay, so moving on to the next one, again, labeling my triangle first. This is my angle in question, but I'm still going to label my hypotenuse first, as always, because in this case, I have 2 potential adjacents, but I know that hypotenuse is across from my right angle box, so I'm going to use that. So now this one is right next door. That is my adjacent. So what I want to do, I only have adjacent, I only have hypotenuse. So I'm going to say I'm going to use cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of 27, sorry guys, I should have written that in there. Cosine of the angle equals adjacent, which is my x, over my hypotenuse, which is 20. So now again, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm cross multiplying, taking whatever's on the bottom, multiplying it by whatever's on the top. So I get x equals 20 times cosine 27. So again, I take my calculator, make sure I am in degree mode. Yes, I am. And I'm going to press cos 27. I always like to do the cos first, or the trig function first. And then I'm going to times it by 20. So I end up getting 17.82. All right. And that's it. That's all I had to do. Now these ones are going to be a little trickier. Not by much though, but I'll show you why. So this is our angle in question. I'm going to label my hypotenuse first because that's good form. I am going to label my adjacent second. Okay. I don't need to label my opposite because it doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't ask me anything. So just for simplicity's sake and helping me figure out which trig function I need to use, I'm going to leave it blank because now that I have adjacent hypotenuse, I'm going to use which one? Cosine. Okay, so I'm going to say cos 51 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So this is a little trickier because now when I cross multiply, remember we always like to get numbers on one side and letters on the other side. So if I cross multiply here, I'm going to take x times cos 51 equals 10 times 1, which is just 10. Now, I'd still like to get x on its own, so I have to divide both sides by cos 51. So, and as we know, whatever's on top and the bottom of a fraction, they're going to cancel each other out. So I'm left with x equals 10 over cos 51, which is beautiful. However, you know, this was a lot of work. Now that if you notice, there is a little bit of switcheroo here, okay? If you have your x value, your unknown, in the denominator, we just kind of swapped places here. So on the next question, we're just going to do that and avoid this step because people can make mistakes here. Okay, so make sure the cos 51, they stay together, that you don't break up the 51 in the cosine here. So, and then we just do the same thing. We divide. So we take a 10 on our calculator, divided by cos 51. And if you are using calculator where you have to type the numbers in first, you will have to use brackets. Okay, and you press equals. And you get a lovely answer of 15.89. So x equals 15.89. And there's no units involved in the question, so we're not going to include units in our answer. Okay? So now, here's another question. And this is our angle in question, of course. So we're going to label our hypotenuse first because that is always the best way to go. And I'm going to look at the opposite of my angle and see that is where my unknown is. So I'm going to label that. Sorry, guys, I know I'm in a shadow again. So here we go. So if I have opposite and hypotenuse, I know I'm going to be using my sine function. So sine 59 equals opposite over hypotenuse. So now I just sub in what I know. Sine 59 equals x over 17. Okay, so x over 17, again, guys, this is a number, sine 59. We know it's a number, sine 59. So it's a beautiful number. Any number can be written as a fraction when we write it over 1. So I'm going to do that when I cross multiply. So I end up with 1 times x is x, and 17 times sine 59. So here's what I do now. So I type in my calculator sine 59, which we just did, and I multiply that by 17, and I'm done. So 14.57. How does that look? Okay, and that is the length of x. And I could underline my answer. I could put a box around my answer, whatever you are comfortable with. So guys, please enjoy the rest of your day. Get some sunshine. Think about some triangles. Think about some trigonometry. And look for the most important part, guys, labeling your triangles. So make sure label, label, label. That will be the most important thing. Okay, so have a great day, guys. See ya.